Hey guys, it's your humble host, or kid if you prefer. So I'm back with another video. I wanted to give kind of my thoughts and reactions to Roe versus Wade getting overturned. I know there's a lot of salt going on right now, a lot of anger, and just a lot of mixed feelings. Now, I have no issue with Roe versus Wade being overturned, but there is a very, very small caveat because I know I've covered a very particular situation on my channel before, and I'm going to say this very carefully, and I need you guys to listen to me. So, for those of you who are not aware, I am pro-life. I've been in and out of various debates in regards to abortion and whether or not it's okay in certain circumstances and what have you. Now, I do think it's important to define, and I know this may sound weird, but I need you to hear me. It's important to define what an abortion is, because there's a very, and I'll see if I can find it on my channel and post a link in the description. There are circumstances, because I've talked about this on my channel before, to where sometimes when women miscarry, their bodies do not flush out by themselves, and so they need to take a pill to do so. That's still considered an abortion. There's a case I covered quite a few years back to where this happened to this poor mother, and she was already distraught, and her body needed to clean everything out because the baby had died and she needed medication to do so, and it was denied because the pharmacist didn't believe in abortions, but had he actually fell back on his medical training, the baby was no longer alive. So that is a small caveat I'm going to put in there, because there are some medical situations like that that are very important to take count of and note of. Now, also, when it comes to, because this is where science comes in and whether or not you believe life starts at conception, which, going by actual studies of baby development or whatnot, it takes 24 hours just for the fertilized egg to bounce around, and whether or not it attaches itself to the uterine wall, 50-50, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on your hormones and other factors. So there's that too. And then there is the hormone HCG, I believe, how early it can be detected, depending on the pregnancy test, depending on how strong that hormone is at the time. So there's a lot of factors, but in the grand scheme of things, I am very much pro-life. I do think that we do also need to bolster our sexual education. And I did see an article, because this is like, and I have no disrespect for Justice Clarence Thomas. None. But again, here's another little caveat, because I'm kind of getting Mike Huckabee vibes, if you guys know who that is, because I believe I might have covered this on my channel like years ago, back in 2014. For those of you who don't remember who Mike Huckabee is, he's the former governor of Arkansas, and he tried to ban, I want to say, federal funding for contraceptives and birth control, which I think is a horrible idea, because here's why. You're not going to get everybody, for one, to the same philosophy, idea, understanding of sex, how it's supposed to be treated, that it's not at some casual thing. You're not going to get everybody on that same playing field. There's just no way. People are just going to be people. Also, when it comes to birth control, there's various medical uses outside of just preventing women from getting pregnant. It's used to balance hormones, and there's different types of birth controls depending on which synthetic hormone they use, give or take. And then There's also the rapid onset of puberty for young girls, which comes way too fast. So a variation is used of that, where you do have, and this is where trans medicine has come in and abused the crap out of this, but you do have puberty blockers used on rare cases when you do have that rapid onset of puberty and the body's not adjusting properly to the rapid maturation of the female body. I'm not entirely sure if it's used for young boys, but young girls developing way too fast or getting their periods way too soon does happen, and that's what puberty blockers are originally supposed to be for. Now, without going too much into the weeds, going back to birth control and contraceptives. Federal funding for contraceptives should stay in place as stuff happens. Birth control. Very, very important because there's so many uses to it. And instead of going the Mike Huckabee route, because I do remember ranting about this on my channel going, oh, well, women just should learn to control their libido. You're a damn moron. It's not about controlling the libido. So, hopefully I don't sound like a feminist. I'm trying to point something out. So forgive me if I sound like one, but I don't think I will. Women's bodies are complicated, and I have talked about the adverse effects of birth control and how it can really throw out of whack your natural hormone balance and all that wonderful jazz. So, but it could also help regulate that. Say, for example, you are estrogen, like your body as a biological woman, because I have to throw that word in there now, as an actual woman, you have a natural hormone balance that is in balance, and you have estrogen just through the roof, and your progesterone production just can't keep up. This is where birth control can come in, and there's also hormone supplements too that you can get prescribed by your gynecologist, and there's different types of creams and all that that can help balance out your body. That's just one example. Another example could be that sometimes a woman's period is just too much, and I'm going to leave it at that. If you're a woman who has these problems, you understand what I'm saying. I don't want to get too gross, so anyway, birth control can help alleviate some of that because that could be higher progesterone, not enough estrogen. I mean, there's all sorts of little complications just from a woman having her period, or there can be. So birth control can be used to balance those out and kind of, I want to say, take the stress off just a little bit. So I do feel like keeping federal funding for those is extremely important. Contraceptives, yes, and this goes all across the board, both girls and guys, these need to stay in place because you can't just cut off one thing and then go after, because like I said, no disrespect to Justice Clarence Thomas. None. Like, that dude, like, damn, he's got a spine and very much respected for it. Oh, and by the way, to add a little bit more salt, do you guys remember during the presidential debates in 2016? I will link an article just to prove what I'm saying. Trump had stated that he was going to install justices on the Supreme Court of the United States that would overturn Roe versus Wade. You guys want to know what a good leader is and an effective one? It's one that can still keep their promises after being kicked out of office or being kicked out of their role. That is a good leader. And the fact that this promise was also kept, I miss Trump. I really hope he's back in 2024. People are either saying Trump or DeSantis. I could go for either one at this point. DeSantis is pretty top notch too, with the stuff he's doing down in Florida. Anyway, we'll see. But so, yeah, no, another promise kept. Now, going back to Justice Clarence Thomas, because I know he's also looking at the federal ruling over same-sex marriage. I have no issue with that being rolled back either. And we talked about this on my channel, that that a lot of the Christians predicted all the other crap that would come when that got legalized federally across the board. Leave it up to the damn states. Sorry. All this stuff should be state-based, not federal. Shouldn't be federally protected. Not by any means. Anyway, so going back to the birth control stuff, and he, if I understand this correctly, he wants to remove the federal protection of it because there are, and I've read about situations before to where you have people who were of either the Catholic, Christian, Baptist faith, what have you, refused to sell like condoms to people, and they worked out of retail stores and that sort of thing. So this is where, because I've talked about this too, to where the church does not know how to handle sex. They don't know how to handle sexual education. I'm not talking about all the freaking other crap they're thrown into it now, LGBT. No, I'm talking about actual real sexual education, not the abstinence shit, because that crap doesn't work either. I'm talking about man, woman, what's realistic, what teenage experience as their body starts to wake up, that side of them, the questions. Like, the church doesn't know how to handle this, and at this point, secular universities don't know how to handle this crap either, because now we have words being tossed out that differentiate the sexes, men and women, boys and girls. So it's a giant mess. Somebody needs to step up somewhere and go, hey, no, this is how it is. This is what actually happens and all that. So going back to the church, because I know Justice Thomas is a man of faith, which I have no disrespect for because I grew up Pentecostal and I still believe in God. And however, I cannot stress enough, because again, this is starting to kind of feel like Mike Huckabee vibes, just a little bit. We need to keep contraceptives and birth control federally funded. That's really important. And because that can tie into the conversation of building back up the nuclear family, which, because this is a multifaceted problem, it's just not women sleeping around. It's not, because men are stupid as hell too. Hookup culture, one night stands, both sexes do it. There's been a breakdown in the nuclear family. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we have to tackle all at once in order for this problem, this deep-rooted problem in society, to be handled properly. Look at the family courts. Look at the way mother and father are propped up in the family. Is that a healthy relationship? There's all kinds of things, the difference between the sexes. It's not just, okay, let's... And don't get me wrong, I am not knocking this. I am very happy about this. Roe versus Wade just being tossed in the garbage, like, thank God. But we need to do more. I have a friend who's, he goes by Hey Dude 77 here on YouTube. He doesn't do YouTube videos anymore, and I've known him for a while. But he said it best, is like, this doesn't, making abortion illegal on a federal level, but putting it back in the hands of the states, because that's pretty much what the overturn of Roe versus Wade did. It didn't make abortion illegal, but it's no longer federally protected. It gave the power back to the states, and now you have several states going, yeah, we're not doing this crap anymore. Supreme Court tossed it out. Y'all can go do your bullshit somewhere else. We're not supporting it here anymore. But as he was saying, my friend, Hey Dude 77, is like, this is, making abortion illegal is not going to solve our issues. And it's not. It is the one step out of many. And as I said, you have to tackle several things at once. So you're going to take away abortion, say this, you can't do this anymore. But so what's the game plan? Don't go after contraceptives and birth control. That's stupid. That is beyond freaking stupid, because at that point, like, that goes into actual family planning. And I know that there's a whole controversy, and there's so many problems with just that alone. And I'm not talking about Planned Parenthood. I'm talking about, like, the stuff like, oh, children are going to ruin my careers, because you can throw in the talk about surrogacy and all that other stuff in there. You have actresses do it. You actually had one actress come out, and I can't remember what her name is. She was talking about how she got told a child would ruin her career, so her and her husband opted to use a surrogate instead of the actress herself going through the process, which is so just personal, if that's the right way to say that. Anyway, so that in itself is a whole other bag of just cluster whatever. But you have to tackle actual family planning. There's other stuff that you have to tackle, like financial help, actually doing that properly more than having a bunch of moochers stuck off of welfare or food stamps, because you do have a lot of people. We do have, and I know this is going to the weeds, but this is a multifaceted problem. You have people who have been mooching off the system for years, abusing custody payments, abusing all kinds of things. So we have to tackle all these problems because this all stems back to pretty much the nuclear family. So yes, you have now made it more difficult for women, which I'm not going to call every woman that does this a witch, because that is so just no. And then the term abortion does have a wide definition, pretty much the aborting of a fetus. I'm going by the definition, just relax. So that could go from miscarriage, that could go from opting to have the child be not alive anymore by various medical means. And I'll leave it at that. So not only does the term of abortion need to be tightened just a little bit, because there is, and I've heard stories, I've read a little bit articles on this as well, on how women, because there are women who are abusive, who drink and do drugs while they're pregnant, and if the baby dies from that, they get charged with murder. So again, that's a whole other problem, that's a whole other situation. There's so much that has to be tackled, that has to be sought through and fought for before we can say, okay, problem solved. No, you've gotten one step down. Let's continue going. Let's do the family courts. Let's start propping up the nuclear family. Let's start talking about actually acknowledging the differences between the sexes. Let's start talking about the real uses of birth control, how they're formatted, how they're created, because not all of them are synthetic progesterone, not all of them are synthetic estrogen. Let's start actually cracking on the issues and deal with them stuff more than just taking. Granted, like I said, I'm not like, praise God, Roe versus Wade is gone, and Trump kept his promise, so MAGA. But we have to do more, and that's the whole point that my friend has been making, that I've been seeing, and I've been saying it's a multifaceted issue. I cannot stress this enough. We've done the first step. There's so many more to go. Let's go. Let's get this. I do see that there's, as I said, there's a culture shift. You have Matt Walsh with What is a Woman? Let's get back to the real definition. What is the real definition of a man? And it's not this freaking hooky rainbow shit. No, let's get back to reality. It's freaking time. We got the first major step. Let's keep going. And that's what's really important. As I said, right now, leave contraceptives and birth control alone, because especially with birth control, there's so many more uses to birth control. Actual medical ones, not just, oh, hey, I don't want to get pregnant. No, and even then, like, if you're going after people for using birth control, that they're being responsible for not having unwanted pregnancies, it kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. Just my 2 cents. But anyway, there's so much more that needs to be done, and we cannot just leave it here. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to cut this off before I go into another rant. You guys have a good one.